see you.
Avatar: Fire and Ash is now streaming on Disney+. It's the film critics are calling the best Avatar yet.
Yeah! Go, 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 go!
A true epic and completely jaw-dropping.
This is the only pure thing in this world.
Return to Pandora on Disney+.
It will be an adventure for the whole family.
And watch the Oscar-winning phenomenon at home.
This is sick!
Avatar: Fire and Ash, now streaming on Disney+. Rated PG-13.
Evening. Buyer's remorse. Buy a new car? I'll be moving in. Let's get started.
Sorry, I think there's been a mistake. I bought it from Carvana.
You what?
Yeah, great price. I even have 7 days to love it or return it.
So there's no...
No buyer's remorse. More like buyer's rejoice.
I guess I'll let myself out. Congratulations. I mean it.
Buyer's rejoice. Buy your car today on Carvana.
Limitations and exclusions may apply. See our 7-day return policy at Carvana.com.
Welcome to the New Books Network.
I'm Chris Holmes, and this is Burned by Books. Here you'll find interviews with writers you already love, like Jennifer Egan and Rebecca Mackay, mixed in with up-and-coming voices like Alexandra Kleeman and Rumaan Alam. You'll find us wherever you listen to podcasts, but check out previous episodes at burnedbybooks.com and on Instagram and Twitter at burnedbybooks. Let's start the show. The final stanza of Carl Phillips' poem, Something to Believe In, captures the way in which dogs reveal our animal nature, and perhaps their human one. He writes, "At night when it's time for bed, we sleep together, the three of us. Muscled animal, muscled animal, muscled animal. The dogs settle to either side of me as if each were the slightly folded wing of a beast from a fable, part power, part recognition. We breathe in a loose kind of unison. Our breathing ripples the way oblivion does, routinely, across history's face. Writing about animals and its thornier cousin, writing from the perspective of animals, has been a feature of our creative lives for much of human history. Go back just a little bit and you'll find Tolstoy's horse, Woolf's cocker spaniel, Eliot's cats, and endless dogs. John Berger, Paul Auster, Jack London, just to name a few. It is upon the dog that we so often project our sense of the best that humankind might have to offer. Loyalty, curiosity, expressive love, hard work, etc., etc. But the work of trying to separate out what we project upon a dog and what might be a dog's perception of life is the difficult work of only the best fictions about these animals that have for so long been part of our ken. Paul Yoon's emotionally wrenching novel, Etna, finds a groove in the imagination where our love for dogs can still give space to our incomplete knowledge of their rich emotional and intellectual lives. We follow the eponymous Etna from a puppyhood that is suddenly rent by a raging war in an unknown country, and watch him grapple with the terrible irony that loyalty to humans who care for him and his pack means sometimes killing other humans. He will find solace in moments with other animals, sometimes dogs, sometimes not, and animals of other species, each with a story to tell about the arc of history as told by animals and outside the violence of humans. In a first-person voice that radiates empathy while sensing an environment that is often invisible to humans, Etna envisions war at the ground level, seen apart from the vagaries of human politics and venality, and understood by its terror and its loss. At the center of the novel is a deep well of emotion, a well that threatens to overcome Etna and his pack with the melancholia of mourning. Etna made me break down, and it made me look longer and differently at my cat, sleeping, twitching in dreams in the sun-dappled afternoon. Paul Yoon is the author of 5 previous works of fiction. Once the Shore, a New York Times notable book, Snow Hunters, winner of the Young Lions Fiction Award, The Mountain, an NPR Best Book of the Year, Run to Earth, a Time must-read book of 2020, also long-listed for the Andrew Carnegie Medal for Excellence in Fiction, and The Hive and the Honey, winner of the 20th Annual Story Prize, and long-listed for the Joyce Carol Oates Prize. Welcome to Burned by Books, Paul Yoon.
So happy to be here, Chris. Thanks for having me.
It's wonderful to have you. This book, as I said, kind of destroyed me. And there's something about the way in which seeing the violence that we reap on other humans through the eyes of an animal makes it somehow all the more brutal to encounter. But I think it's important that we start, because this is from Etna's perspective, by hearing that voice. Would you mind reading just the opening 2 pages of the book for us?
Yeah, I would be absolutely happy to. I'll read the first 2 pages. Here we go. Look, see the dogs. I was born near water. I was born on a farm where many other dogs and other animals were born and cared for and lived. I would never learn what the farm was intending to do with me. Maybe nothing at all. Maybe I was supposed to grow old there. Or maybe I was always supposed to leave, to go work somewhere else and be with a new family. But it was home to me. My mother was there, my brothers and my sisters. An early memory, waking up to a den of pale noses surrounding me before our mother came. The silhouette of her face looming over us in the sky, with tall triangles of her ears pocketing the smell of the coast. Every day there was sand floating in daylight and salt on our tongues, the sea wind over grass, the barn eaves where hornets made nests that resembled the empty shells of turtles hanging up there heavy in the wind, the cloven hooves of goats and the enormous sleepy pig who never wanted to play with us, and the birds everywhere, their bright feathers and their music, their shadows and all their shit, which I love to eat. I love too listening to the farm owners talking to each other. I like the softness of their 2 voices, the woman often speaking through strands of her hair, the way the man rubbed his finger over a button on his shirt when he was preoccupied or nervous, the way they both said weather and child and bucket and feed and bed and leak in the roof and don't forget about the dogs and beautiful and happy birthday and see you soon, I love you. Then there was a day when their voices changed. It reminded me of when the man told the woman that his father had died. There was more silence and space between them, and when they spoke, it was about people fighting along a far border. As the days went on, the farm owners kept talking about it, whispering outside as they went to fill our water bowls, to feed the animals, about the country next to this one, and then about other countries coming here to help, to fight.
Thank you so much. So I'm going to ask the very obvious question first,
Sure.
which is why a dog? And
Totally.
what drew you to wanting to do what is a really difficult task, I think, as a writer, and that is to get inside the mind of a creature that we can't truly know?
Yeah, I mean, I think the easy or the fast answer to that, Chris, is I fell in love with a dog. I've never had a dog before in my life, didn't have any growing up. And my dog now, his name's Oscar, he's 12. Well, my wife and I rescued him when he was 3 months old. So he's been in my life for about 12 years, sorry. And I think I know for those listening who have animals, and Chris, I'm sure you do this with your cat or cat's plural. You talk to your animals, right? And
yeah.
But for me, I've never talked to Oscar out loud beside commands, and it's always been this kind of silent communication the past 12 years where, it's almost like it's weird. I'm imagining telepathy or something where we're communicating in silence. And through that, I think I started imagining his voice talking back to me. And he is older now. He's 12. And I think I was only able to write this book as he's older, and I'm thinking about the days like sort of without him, if that makes any sense. And so
you're not supposed to make me cry at the beginning. You could save that for the end.
Yeah. No, we just dove right in, Chris. Yeah. But no, I think part of it was I was thinking a lot about like him getting older, and so I started typing up so the first few pages or the first few lines are just sort of me imagining his voice and our imagined conversation that we're having. Obviously, Oscar is not Etna, and and we're not living in this fictional country that I was creating. But the seed of the book began from there. began from love of the dog.
Well, I love that. That's beautiful. What you read is in many ways an accounting for love.
Yeah.
And a way of understanding love from a dog's perspective. This is a very interesting way to begin a book that is for, in a lot of ways about war and about violence. Why did you want to start with an accounting of love?
I think part of it was I wanted to sort of position the book where we are about to encounter a devastated and decimated world, and it is going to be a very dark one, and it's going to be a very tough one. And our protagonist, our canine friend Edna, is going to have a very, very difficult journey. But I wanted the baseline to be the opposite. I wanted it to be his decision fueled by love and hope. And to begin with that positivity and optimism felt important to me. And then it became, I think, the challenge through this character is, how do you sustain that hope? How do you sustain that love? How do you keep it going as he traverses this world to try to get back home?
You note that King, a novel with a dog narrator by the wonderful writer John Berger, was a direct influence on Etna.
Yeah.
I wonder what it was about that particular narrative that was a catalyst to your own attempt to imagine the interiority of it.
Yeah, I think that's a really great question. I think that I read that book when I was in my 20s for the first time. And I remember opening it up. It was like late at night because I would read before bed. And next thing I know, I had pulled an all-nighter, and I'd finished it in one quote unquote sitting. And I think many things have stayed with me. And part of it, I think, was that I hadn't read that many animal narratives where there was this sort of immediate door that was sort of open and accessible, where I was suddenly in the mind and the point of view of a non-human, and it felt so natural. And I think part of that feeling of magic was sort of there suddenly, where I was just kind of thinking about, I can't believe this writer just did this in a way that where I just, like, without blinking, I've leapt into the mind of a dog, right? And then it was suddenly, oh, you can do anything. This book can do anything, and I will follow it, right? Part of it was that. I think part of it was also suddenly I'm in a non-human perspective, and therefore I'm suddenly seeing things aslant at a different angle, closer to the ground, or kind of at a remove. And I found all that very interesting and very, I don't know, like it opened up the world, right? The world suddenly felt more vast because of it.
Yeah, and that leads me right into one of the key questions for me about trying to do something like that. And that is this daunting challenge with how to craft a balance between over-anthropomorphizing a dog for the ease, for the, recognizable sense of kind of a dupe of a human consciousness.
Yeah.
Or at the other end of it, othering him so much that you might alienate your reader. And how did you search for that balance?
Well, my hope is I did strike the balance.
You did. For me, and I would say that the magic you reference with King is so much here because I felt so natural in Etna's head. So I'll just say that up front. But I am interested in how you managed it.
First and foremost, I think I was definitely relying on kind of the tone of King and the sort of matter-of-factness of the voice, which I found interesting. Or we could talk about this later if you want, but as a Jarden Gardner's Grendel, which is sort of narrated through the beast, the monster's voice, which I thought did the same sort of thing where there was a kind of matter-of-factness that I wanted to kind of embody or echo. But another way to answer that, Chris, is I think I was, or I hope this answers it in some way, but I was aware that I wanted a narrator that was dog, but also not dog, in that there are moments where Edna is very doggy and will do like a lot of doggy stuff, and yet I was also aware that I was trying to bring in a human readership, like human readers to access this world. Like, how do I create a bridge into this world narrated by a non-human for readers to kind of create this world? And know and be aware about this world in some ways at times when maybe Etna might not be aware of what's going on, for the reader to be aware of what's going on and all these considerations. And so it was the balance for me that was the balance, which is like, how do I make sure there are moments where Etna is very doggy, and yet there are also moments where it feels a lot more vast than that too.
Yeah, and oftentimes those moments come right on top of each other. I can remember there's a moment that, honestly made me tear up, in which I believe do you pronounce it Samaru?
Samaru, yeah, named after the volcano. Yeah.
Oh, that's another volcano.
Yeah.
Samaru?
How
do you say
Samaru?
it?
Yeah.
Samaru. Where I believe he puts his head on top of Etna as a sort of like general sort of calm and loving kind of embrace almost. And it's a moment of both being very doggy, to use your term, but also a transmission of kind of a very large human, if I could say so, understanding of kind of embrace and touch and communion between two creatures. And so they're operating sort of simultaneously, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And in those moments where, because the animals do have this ability to kind of talk to each other and communicate, but I also wanted to remind the readers, but also this world, that, like, there's a kind of physicality to that connection too, where they are using their bodies as a way to support and console and communicate, and just say, like, hey, like, you are my friend, you are now my pack, we are connected, I'm here for you,
Yeah, lovely. Etna takes place in an unnamed, perhaps invented country, but with many signals of our present moment. The United States is playing some role in the war, and many aspects resemble various external and civil conflicts going on today.
Sure.
In particular, I thought again and again of the extended war in Ukraine. There's a moment in which two dogs are thinking about how long it takes to destroy a city. And I couldn't help but think about the extent at which attempts to destroy Kyiv and other Ukrainian cities have just gone on 100%. And on. And how much... sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just... sorry to interrupt you, but it just got me thinking about your first question. And I remember early on in the war in Ukraine, there was this article, I think it was in the Times, I'm sorry that I can't remember who wrote it, about these heroic people trying to get back into these destroyed cities to rescue the animals that were left behind.
I do remember that.
Do you remember this? Like, there was an organization that they were attempting to, like, get back in there to rescue all the dogs and the horses and the cows that were left behind and who had survived. And I think when I read that, just something in me broke, I was just like, this is just too overwhelming for me. Like, but also just like the heroism of all that. And again, like the love, right? The love that is that propels people to do that. And that's actually what became the kind of fire to, like, begin this project, was reading that article in a lot of ways. So yeah, just to go back to that first question.
I have so many moments that I can remember having similar reactions. It'll be something like a kitten rescued from an earthquake destroyed building, or something 100%,
like that. Yeah.
And then I have that intense feeling, and then I often have a feeling of guilt connected to it, that I am sometimes less likely to project such unfiltered empathy and compassion for humans. And there's something about animals that can derive that kind of pureness. And I wonder if you thought about that when you were thinking about Etna, because there's, my understanding of war through Etna is in some ways clearer and more emotionally clear than it is through thinking about human experience in it.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. Like, I'm right there with you, Chris. And I know a lot of people are like this, where we can read about, disaster after disaster, or watch some action movie or something, right? Where there's, so many lives in peril and yet I can't watch a single like animal dying. You know what I mean? Like I just can't do it. And so like I don't I again like I that it's a very emotional thing for me. I don't know. It's a really good question. I don't know if I was thinking of that per se when I was working on this project. I think something had just kind of taken over me where I was just all in, and in some ways my focus was kind of, I don't know if tunnel vision is the right word, but I was just really focused on just kind of being with this animal that I tried not to think too much about kind of anything other than like one paw forward and the next paw forward. And we are navigating this very dangerous landscape, and we are going to encounter people, and some people are going to be dangerous and some people are going to be kind and allies, and some animals are going to be dangerous and some animals are going to be kind and allies. And I was thinking in very, very kind of small steps. And that's sort of how I built the project, was this kind of like very kind of like step by step by step, almost like you have a flashlight and you're kind of, kind of like crawling through that tunnel or like stepping very quietly, kind of sort of unsure what your light is going to illuminate,
Yeah.
I see you.
Avatar Fire and Ash is now streaming on Disney Plus. It's the film critics are calling the best Avatar yet.
Yeah! Go, 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 go!
A true epic and completely jaw-dropping.
This is the only pure thing in this world.
Return to Pandora on Disney Plus
It will be an adventure for the whole family.
and watch the Oscar-winning phenomenon at home.
This is sick!
Avatar Fire and Ash, now streaming on Disney Plus. Rated PG-13.
Best thing that's ever happened to you financially. Go.
Easy. Sold my car on Carvana. Amazing offer.
Really? I hit 200 on a scratcher.
Did the scratcher come to your house and hand you a check?
No.
How many scratchers did you hit to get that? I hit a button on Carvana.com once.
Okay, that's fair.
It's like the lottery, except you always win.
Not like the lottery at all, actually.
Exactly. Inexplicably good. Offers worth bragging about. Sell your car today on Carvana. Pickup fees may apply.
So the idea of the pack is very important to this novel, and as a way of thinking through community and and families of choice, especially when one loses one's family.
Yeah.
And there are moments in which that pack is, crosses the species line, and moments where it becomes very visceral. There's an incredible scene in which a bomb goes off and Jason, one of Etna's handlers in the war, sacrifices himself for Etna, and literally his bones, some of his bones go into Etna in the blast. But those relationships are also trans-species in this broad community of other animals. There's everything from a snotty cat and, a loving donkey and a wise bird, and each sharing something that leads to a broader and broader conceptualization of a pack.
Yeah.
So can you talk about pack as human animal and animal animal?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think like for Etna, in a lot of ways, if we think of kind of, like day zero for him, or like his early, when he's thinking like how this book begins, it begins with love, but I think it also begins with kind of many, many animals and humans together, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so he's not only growing up with his fellow like sibling dogs, but he's growing up with the farm owners. He's growing up with a sleepy pig, birds, a goat, and et cetera, et cetera. And I think
I love that the pig won't play with them.
Right.
Such a great detail.
Totally. And and if that kind of that eclecticism or that diversity is kind of imprinted onto Etna in some ways, I wanted to kind of carry that forward just a little bit, right? And so there are times where his pack is, fellow dogs, or there's times, especially during the war, where it's both human and dog. And then on his journey after the war, when he's trying to get back home, like you were saying, there are moments when his pack becomes cat, dog, or dog, donkey, and I think all of that was sort of an echo of how he grew up in a kind of diverse world, but I think also a reminder. My hope is that for Etna, I think he thinks what he wants is to go back home, but as he travels, and I don't think I'm giving anything away by saying this, I think what he discovers is as he experiences one pack after another, that what he really wants is an actual forever pack,
Yeah.
and
Represented by Fuji and her ghostly presence throughout the book.
Exactly, right? Where Fuji, being the puppy that he grew up with, he loses her because she vanishes. He doesn't, and that becomes like that first loss, right? Or you were saying like the ghost pack that's kind of haunting him, and I think by the story's end, I think he realizes it's not the physical place he's longing for, but who is his pack, right? Like who makes up the people in his life, or the beings in his life, the animals in his life, and will they end up like staying, right? And will that be a kind of solid thing?
I wanted him, at least at the moment in the book, to stay with the old dog who had lost its family, his family, even if just for a time, because that dog certainly was on his last moments. And I knew why he couldn't, and I needed to move on. But that was a very a seminal moment of thinking through like packs and longevity and things like that.
Yeah, and I do, but I also think that he, as he goes farther and farther away from that dog and closer to home, he thinks about the dog a lot.
Yeah,
he thinks about that old dog, and he worries about the dog, and I think a part of him believes or was slightly a little tempted to maybe like stay a little longer, even though he knows he can't, and that felt important to express too, that kind of longing for that kind old dog.
Yeah. No one is untainted by the moral stain of war in Etna. Humans and animals both kill to avoid being killed, or to save someone and thereby sacrifice another. And Etna is trained to detect landmines by their toothpaste smell. And here's you direct from the novel. Quote, "I learned what to listen for and what to smell out: nicotine and sweat, urine and gunpowder, the hum of an electric current like in a battery or a SIM card, the weight of a foot on a floorboard. I learned to attack a particular artery in the thigh, or go for the genitals or the throat." Yeah. And we do see Etna kill, but with the caveat that it is always as a sacrifice to save another. This is a question for war writ large, but we read it through Etna. How does Etna help us understand this impossible moral quandary?
I think that's a really great question, Chris. I mean, I think for me, I don't know if this answers it, but I think seeing it through this dog's eyes, I think at least the writing experience of it was it amplified the senselessness of it all, and the absolute sort of the absolute senselessness of it all, and so there was that element. I think one thing that I discovered while creating this character and having him go through he went through was also the kind of incredible loyalty that he has, right? And whether that is like his unit during the war, or the people that and the dogs that make up kind of his new quote unquote pack on his journey, and that even though he is a complex and compromised character at times because he's done like some very bad things, and that has at times been a very, very bad boy, shall we say, right? And and yet there is still that kind of these strands of goodness in him that are strong. And I think having those two things exist simultaneously was important to me, where he has done some gnarly things, but he's also like the best of dogs too,
Yeah, and that's actually a nice mirror to Sujin, who's like the perfect encapsulation of the human version of this. She's the one human who can she does what you hope you're magically doing with Oscar.
Right.
In that she can communicate directly with dogs and even be inside their heads in a way that an author can only long for. And yet she's responsible for making Etna a war dog and compromising him in maybe the worst possible way.
Yeah.
But she's a wonderful character and she returns and in an important way. But I wonder if you can talk a little bit about the kind of paralleling that happens between her and Etna in that way.
Well, yeah, and I think the paralleling is exactly right, Chris, where as Etna goes on his, little odyssey back home, we're sort of maybe in the back of our minds because Sujin, the doctor, is introduced early on, maybe we're kind of thinking about her timeline too and her own journey, right? And wherever it is that she's been. But, again, like you were saying, she's introduced as a very complex character. She's the one who quote unquote recruits Etna, basically takes him from his home. But, her defense is that it was either that or eventually the entire coast is going to be decimated and they wouldn't have survived that anyway. Right. So, and
she says to Fuji and Etna, survive.
Exactly.
This
survive. Right. And so the choice for her was, you saved these dogs' lives, even though like I'm going to take them, right? I'm going to take them away, but I'm also saving the dogs' lives. And that's a complicated thing, right? And yet, like you were saying, she comes back later on in an important way. But I would argue that by the time we get back to her after the years have gone by, she, like Etna, is both someone who's doing a lot of good, but probably has done some bad too, in the spirit of kind of like for the betterment of a bigger good, right?
Yeah. You just dropped Odyssey there, and there's a nice cultural collision between our current cultural fixation on Christopher Nolan's Odyssey and what is clearly an Odyssey-shaped journey that Etna takes from endless war back home to the sea. And indeed, we meet a Greek man named Achilles. So how does Greek tragedy influence this story as one of its many intertexts?
I think part of it was some of the first books I fell in love with were the Greek tragedies or Homer, and the epic poems. And so I've always kind of, I think that's sort of, those have been fires that have been burning in me for a long time. Right. And in some ways I've been in dialogue with those books as in simply that they're like very much inspirations of mine. But I think something that I love about, I don't know, something like the Odyssey or the Iliad is how, I don't know if this is the right word, but how far away they are in time from where we are. And we feel that, like, I don't know, or at least I do. I feel that distance. I feel that little unbelievable vastness. And yet you read those books and kind of time collapses because there's so much of it that kind of is relatable. Right. And when I was working on Etna, I think it was that spirit of like, how can I bring like vast time into this in a book that actually is all about like fast time, because it's sort of just a journey that hits the ground running, right? And so I was thinking about these historical works, but it was also one reason why all the dogs are named after volcanoes being sort of ancient things, and so stuff like that.
And yeah, I love that, because we get this foreshadowing about Etna's name before Etna understands why he was named this. We get all these references to burning as the nature of war is that things are always burning. And yet he is named by Sujin as, to burn. Yeah. And that nature of an ancient volcano that is full of the capacity for violence and burning, but is also this thing that records a long array of history in a way that is outside of human perception of history. And I wanted to get your take on the volcano as both a representation of the horrors of war, but also something more ancient and with more to tell, like Etna himself.
Yeah, and I think if I heard you correctly, Chris, I think you were saying something that's like sort of outside of history, right?
Yeah.
And yet to me, like there's something cyclical about, about a volcano erupting, being dormant, et cetera, right? And that perhaps that cycle has existed before history. And I think I was thinking about, this book is 100% set in a fictional country. It's a fictional war, but it does feel like, we can't help but kill each other over and over and over and over and over again. And I think part of it was just thinking about the cycles of that, right? The cycles of conflict, global conflicts, and that kind of feeling that you're in the middle of like, a funhouse mirrors and it's endless, right? Like the reflections are just endless and these wars are just going on and on and on and on, and they will continue to go on and on and on. And I think I was thinking a lot about that and the timelines of all that and the history of all that and the future too.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's such a depressing truism about about our history. Perhaps to divert to something less depressing, there's a book by Daniel Peña Guzman, When Animals Dream. I don't know if you've encountered it.
No, I haven't. Tell me about it. Sounds amazing.
It situates non-human subjectivity in the idea of the dreaming creature. Both the idea that we are able to witness and understand from a neurological sense that animals do dream, many animals, and also that we are dreaming animals, and that gives us the possibility of reaching outside of ourselves towards animals. And dreams are something that Etna shares with other dogs, with in particular a well at their as their kind of central focus. And I wonder what dreaming tells us about Etna and his pack.
I think for me, the reason why I brought that in for Etna, so for those who haven't read this yet, there's a kind of recurring theme where Etna has this recurring dream about a well. He discovers a well in the forest, and he has no idea like why he's dreaming this. He's been dreaming this for a long time, and then he meets another dog, Samaru, who he discovers actually dreams the same thing, and part of that was I wanted to kind of bring in sort of the possibility of just sort of these animals being connected in ways that they can't comprehend or are fully able to comprehend, where there's a kind of a bit more of a, for lack of a better word, like spiritual connection with all these animals. I felt important to me in that, like sort of that connection as a kind of resistance to this world being completely decimated that they're in. And I wanted them to also kind of believe in something that was greater than them, if that makes sense, Chris. And it's ineffable and they can't explain it. And some dogs aren't even sure what a well is. They just seem to know what it is, right? And so it just seemed important to like instill in them this sense that there's something bigger out there that they're all connected to.
Well, before I let you go, Paul, I'd love to hear a little bit about what you've been reading and loving recently, if you have some things you might want to recommend to my listeners.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been reading, so I just finished The Disappearing Act by Maria Stepanova. And
I don't know it.
It's a very short novel. It's about a character who's also a writer known, I believe it's just M, who is sort of living in exile after her home sort of declares war on another country. And so she ends up traveling and going. She's supposed to go to an event as a writer, but what ends up happening is she misses the train and then basically decides to kind of vanish and start a different kind of life and ends up completely somewhere else. And, and I was completely entranced by it.
It sounds wonderful.
It's wonderful and yet very just restrained and controlled, if that makes any sense.
Oh, yeah.
In this really beautiful way. I absolutely love it. That's The Disappearing Act by Maria Stepanova. Jonathan Buckley's One Boat is another book that I love, which is about a narrator visiting an island off of Greece 2 times in their lives. The first time when a parent dies, and the second time when a second parent dies, I believe. I could have that wrong, but but it does these incredible things with time because it's juggling 2 visits to the island over the course of many years. And so I was, again, completely entranced by that. And that's Jonathan Buckley's One Boat.
Those sound wonderful. I'm putting them both on my TBR list.
Oh, yeah, please do. Please do.
But my audience really needs to add Etna immediately to their TBR list. Go out to your local indie. This is a book that, I don't own a dog, but I feel so connected to the lives and interiority of dogs from just having read this book. And it also made me rethink war and our moment and the long history of humans and our connections to animals who help us understand ourselves in better ways. And I'm really grateful for this book, Paul, and grateful for the chance to get to talk to you about it.
Oh, yeah. Gratitude right back, Chris. I had such a great time. And thank you so much for not only reading my book, but engaging with it. And for all this. I really, really appreciate it. And also you've got cats, so that counts.
Okay. I'm glad. Well, thank you so much.
Thanks, Chris.
Well, that's all for me for now. My thanks to Paul Yoon for coming on to talk about his latest novel, Etna. You can find links to purchase Etna and all of Paul's recommended books at the website, burnedbybooks.com. There you'll find all of our previous episodes, links to buy a podcast t-shirt or sweatshirt. And by the way, there's a brand new design that I hope you'll like, and ways to get in contact. As you listen, take a moment to rate the show on iTunes, Spotify, or YouTube, or wherever you find your podcasts. Until next time, this has been Burned by Books.
Avatar: Fire and Ash is now streaming on Disney Plus. It's the film critics are calling the best Avatar yet.
Yeah! Go, 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 go!
A true epic and completely jaw-dropping.
This is the only pure thing in this world.
Return to Pandora on Disney Plus.
It will be an adventure for the whole family.
And watch the Oscar-winning phenomenon at home.
This is sick!
Avatar: Fire and Ash, now streaming on Disney Plus. Rated PG-13.